Okay, my headset's not working, so I'm verifying notice that it was sent to the listservs and posted on the website.
Hold on a second, Rachel. We're gonna kick off. Yeah, so this is the May ANC3C meeting, and first things first, we'll go through the agenda. So we need to make sure we have quorum, and I see Commissioner Siddiqui, Commissioner Packets, Commissioner Dyer, and Commissioner Fink, and myself. So that gives us quorum. So we're good on quorum. Rachel, can you verify notice, please?
Yes, notice was sent to the listservs and posted on our website.
Great, thank you very much. And now we move to the approval of the agenda. That means if when the agenda is approved, anything that is on the consent agenda or on the consent calendar is automatically approved with the agenda being approved. That being said, I'm going to throw the agenda into the chat. Commissioners, are there any objections to proceeding with the agenda as it is posted?
Yes, Commissioner Finley. I'd like to propose two changes. I'm going to propose them one after the other.
Okay, and why don't you propose the first one, Commissioner Siddiqui?
Okay, the first one I would like to propose is move commission business consideration of a historic preservation review board application regarding Uptown Theater landmark application to the consent calendar.
Okay, is there any objection to that, commissioners?
No.
Okay, all right, so that is approved. We will be moving the Historic Preservation Review Board application regarding the Uptown, the application to the consent calendar. And then your second one?
My second one is move item 5 on commission business, consideration of a resolution regarding DC's role as a safe haven for reproductive health services to the consent calendar.
Okay, commissioners, is there any objection to that?
No.
Okay, great. So we now have the Historic Preservation Review Board application regarding the Uptown Theater landmark application and the consideration of a resolution regarding DC's role as a safe haven for reproductive health services. Both have been moved to the consent calendar. Is there all those or is there any objection rather to the consent calendar as it now stands?
No.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, hello, welcome.
Thank you. The Uptown landmark application has been moved to consent.
Yes, it has.
On what basis? Does the applicant know it's gone to consent?
Commissioner Siddiqui, that would be your question.
Because there are things in the resolution that pertain to the application. It's not just a support for the application. There are changes that are requested here. So does the applicant know?
The applicant knows of the changes. I verified the changes with the applicant.
But when was this decided to go on consent? Because I haven't been online for about an hour, but I don't recall ever seeing it that it was going to be on consent.
By the way, the applicant is here, Zachary Burt from DC Preservation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised it's on consent, but I'm fine with that, of course. Is it because I'm guessing because we've been in communication over the past couple of weeks, Commissioner Siddiqui?
So we circulate the resolution. It was circulated to the community, and Commissioner McWood, just to let you know, I asked to edit the agenda at the beginning, and I moved that one and another resolution. Number 5, I requested that to be moved to the consent calendar. So that's when it was moved to consent, right at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay, if the applicant doesn't have any objection to it, but I'd just like to make a comment. When we created the consent calendar, probably, I don't know, 10, 12, maybe longer years ago, the idea was to streamline our agenda, but not to disadvantage anyone. And so one of the principles that we adopted is that what was going on consent would be advertised when the meeting notice was advertised. So a week in advance so that everyone would know. And that if anyone had any objections, for whatever reason, didn't matter the reason, that we would take an item off of consent and we would put it on the regular business agenda. It's moving things to consent during the meeting, at the beginning of the meeting when the agenda is approved, I think is a really bad practice. And I just want to make that comment. And I hope that commissioners will think about it. I think it's something that we have started to do that I'm sure it's in the interest of streamlining our meetings, but I'm really concerned that it's not giving the public the notice that we should be.
Commissioner McWood, are you objecting to the consent calendar as it's currently amended?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I don't know how it was. I don't know how it was amended.
It was amended to include the Uptown application on the consent calendar, as well as the reproductive health services resolution, the resolution regarding DC's role as a safe haven.
Okay, as long as the applicant for the Uptown landmark application doesn't have any objection, I don't have any objection. I don't have any objection to the also to the safe haven for reproductive health services being moved to consent. I think it's an excellent resolution. What about number 4, the Safer Intersections Amendment Act that I had requested earlier be taken off of consent? Is that still
Yeah,
on consent?
That is still on consent. All right, would you like that removed?
I would request that be removed.
All right. So we're moving number 4 from the consent calendar to now it is number 4 in commission business. Any objections to the consent calendar moving forward? Run through
Chair Finley, I would like to give the applicants, I see Zachary Burt and Bonnie Laparter here, if they have any objection to that being passed on consent. Just to let you both know, what it means is it will pass as the resolution stands with a unanimous vote, the way it's written. If you move it off consent, then the commission will discuss so if one of the commissioners decide to move it off consent. But I do want to give you the chance, since Commissioner McWood brought it up, if you would like to move it off consent and be discussed.
Bonnie from Cleveland Park Historical Society, did you have any thoughts on that? I mean, to Commissioner McWood's point, we didn't necessarily know that we were going to be at this point on the agenda, but
yeah, you caught us a little off guard, although I will be, excuse me, listening to the rest of the meeting later. I just think we were going to make the technical amendment that was requested. And other than that, we're very happy that you're supporting this really important landmark nomination for the Uptown Theater, which is such an important anchor and gem in our neighborhood. So on behalf of the CPHS, Cleveland Park Historical Society, we're very glad that the commission, that the ANC, that all of you commissioners are unanimously supporting that. So thank you.
No, of course, and one of the reasons I moved it to the consent calendar wasn't to, like take any opinion away from the community, but I felt it was something that would get unanimous support, because I think we all support what you all were doing, and just the details of the technical edit, I just put those in there. But if you both are okay, that'll save us a lot of time and save you all a lot of time as well, and we can move it to the consent calendar and get it approved unanimously. So
yeah, I think my only concern with the resolution, I think it's a good resolution, about the language on the parking lot. I mean, we plan to work with HPO when the time comes on this revision, and
okay, so if we need to discuss, then Commissioner Finley, should we move it off? Would you like me to request it to move consent?
So it sounds like we should not have it on consent.
Perfect. Let's move it off consent and
All
back
right,
it up the agenda.
Okay, we spend entirely too much time discussing a consent calendar. So are there any objections to the consent calendar as it now stands, which includes Abra Class C license for Barcelona renewal, a renewal for a Class D license for Giant at Wisconsin Avenue, is Historic Preservation Review Board for 3019 Rodman Street, and consideration of a resolution regarding DC's role as a safe haven for reproductive health services. Commissioners, is there any objection to the consent calendar as it currently stands? All right, it is adopted. Thank you. Now, the first order of commission new business, is presentation by the Department of Transportation and the consultant Parsons on the Cleveland Park Watershed and Drainage Improvement Project. And who do we have presenting that this evening? Christian, can you guide us?
Smith Staklev from Beta. I will be introducing the project, and Prakash and Brian will take over.
So is this the Christian I should allow to share screen? Or will somebody else be sharing screen?
Sure, this is Prakash Patel, and I'm going to share my screen. So let me try.
So Christian, in the future, please don't forward the link that you use to register, because that means everyone ends up with the same name. And please ask everyone to register individually, because that also helps us keep track of who's registering.
Gotcha. Understood. Thanks, Holly.
Okay, I think I made the right Christian the co-host. But if not, and then you'll be able to share your screen.
Can everybody see my screen?
No.
No. We see you.
You cannot see my screen.
No.
So what am I doing wrong? And right here.
There we go.
How about
All
now?
right. Success. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Cass, you can pick up this. Did we lose Tess?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. First, I would like to thank you, ANC3C, for giving us this opportunity. Can you hear me, everyone? Can you hear me, Prakash?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. As you may remember, a couple of months ago, we had the opportunity to present this project. At that time, the project was in its early stage, and we didn't have many details to share. But since then, the project has progressed towards 6% design, and we have made a major progress in achieving the project objectives. So in a few moments, the project team will share this progress details. Prakash, can you go to slide number 2? So meeting agenda, I'll talk about on the project overview, and Prakash and Brian will go over the project components, environmental consideration, public involvement, and what the next steps for this project are. The project objective or the project goal is to mitigate the flooding in Cleveland Metro Station and on Connecticut Avenue in that corridor. So the project is divided, phased into 2 phases. Phase 1 design is complete, and then, as you might be aware, the construction have already started underway. Phase 2, this project is under design and then is progressing towards 100% design. The project area, the dark red is where the phase 2 project is, and then the light blue is where the phase 1 project is. So as you can see, phase 2 covers much larger area than phase 1. phase one was basically near the metro station, but phase two will complement phase one by covering much larger area and then also covering the sewer trunk that outfalls to Port Street Northwest. Prakash will go talk about the existing condition and then the proposed.
Sure. Thanks, Tess, and thanks ANC3C for giving us an opportunity to present this project details. As Tess mentions, this is really a storm drainage and sewer side, water side improvement project. What I'm showing on the screen is there are 3 sewer sides in this vicinity. One on the top is Manhole Inspections sewer side. One in the middle is Port Ordway sewer side, and the one at the bottom is Macomb Newark sewer side. So what we are going to do, the contributing sewer side is really a Port Ordway sewer side. That is the one causing the flooding reoccurring events on Connecticut Avenue near the metro stations. You can see there are 3 outfalls. One on the north side is right here. This is, they call it Manhole Hazen culvert. Then we have a second outfall that is at the end of a Porter Street right here. And this is the main outfall for the Port Ordway sewer. And the third one is for the Macomb, and that's here by the Klingle Valley Creek. Moving on to the next slide, if no. So here is, so we have done enough study on this hydraulic analysis, prepare some reports, some preliminary reports, and we are to the point where doing call it 30% design levels. And our finding from this preliminary analysis is on a high level, Port Ordway sewer site is about 170 acre large area. That's I showed on the previous graphics. That's 170 acres. The Rock Creek outfall velocity, that's about 18 foot per second. But prior to that is the largest storm drainage pipe that is running along the Porter Street is 54-inch diameter pipe. And the capacity for that pipe is 350 cubic foot per second. And what we are finding from our analysis for a 15-year storm, it generates as high as 900 cubic foot per second. So as you can see, we have a capacity of 350 CFS, while we have a 900 CFS coming out from the entire sewer set. As I mentioned, the velocity at the outfall is 18 foot per second. The calculated depth, it could go as high as 12 to 15 inch above the curb when the 15-year storm occurs. And existing conveyance, as you can see, we really need an overhaul for the storm drainage system. And based on this analysis and looking at a lot of data, we have made some recommendation on mitigations. And moving on to the next slide. So there are 3 types of mitigation that we are recommending for this. One is green infrastructures, which is a basic elements on taking care of the issue right at the source. The second is an extended detention systems, where a large volume of runoff will be stored and released at a lower speed, lower flow. And the third mitigation is in some area there is really, we need to have a storm drainage, storm sewer system improvement and upgrade. There's not enough inlets to convey all of the water that's coming from the sewer side. So these are the 3 different type of improvement that we are recommending as a part of our design and analysis at this point. Moving on to the next, this is the detail of green infrastructure locations. And again, I apologize for not showing a lot of details. This is 170 acres of area that I'm trying to show on 11 by 17 screen. And all of those green dots that you see, those are the location for the proposed green infrastructures. And knowing that we are still at 30% levels, as we develop the design further into details, this may come down to even smaller numbers based on some of those physical constraints that we will have, utilities and physical locations and characteristics and whatnot.
So I've got a question on this slide. Are the bioretention, the cisterns and other things, are they going to still be under DDOT, or are they moving to DOE or elsewhere, or to DPW or anything like that? Will this still be a DDOT program with bioretention?
Yeah, this is part of the sewer set improvement program.
Right, but the green dots, are they sort of the sort of swales and rain gardens? What are they, bioretention?
Those are, and I'm going to show the details, typical details of those in my next slide.
Great, thank you.
So these are the curbside, the typical improvement that you see. You put in an impervious alleyway within the sewer site. This is the green curbside facilities. And so, these are the sources where the runoff is really starting from, and we take care of that and kind of percolate the water through this green infrastructures and slow it down and accumulate and eventually discharge into a storm drainage system.
And who manages those once they're installed?
Who manages in terms of maintenance?
Yes.
That would be part of the DDOT stormwater management maintenance. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tess.
Yes, those are maintained by DDOT.
Okay, the reason I asked.
There is sweeping progress by, but mostly for the planting and the bioretention areas are maintained by DDOT.
Okay, the reason why I ask is because at the corner of 27th and Macomb, and Commissioner McWood can probably attest to this too, we've got two of these, and they routinely get filled up with trash. Currently, they're overgrown, blocking visibility onto the road at a corner, and they are rather unsightly. So I want to make sure that if we're going to install more of these, that there is maintenance so that they do not become little mini dumps that happen to slow water flowing into the drainage system.
There's also one, this is Commissioner McWood, there's also one on Woodley Road over by Klingel Road. And it was a triangle park previously. And now it is incredibly unsightly. It's not maintained at all. And even on the street, some of the permeable parking lanes, there's a lot of debris that gathers on the roadway that you don't see on the regular roadway pavement. I don't know what that is, but we've had it now for several years since we've had those permeable lanes. It seems to be a very, for want of another word, dirty substance. So just point those out. Hopefully the technology has advanced because what we've got right now is pretty problematic.
Yeah, I actually have a question about if the ones that are existing up in that Cleveland Park that they just referenced, are they engineered and designed to go into the system like you're proposing these do, where it's talking to the DC water infrastructure, or are those just like one-offs that were done, that were done without that full, design into the bigger, larger system?
So these are roadside green infrastructure facilities. Those are normally a 5 foot wide within the green space, and the length depending upon what kind of obstructions we have on along those stretch. So those are one type of GI facility that we are recommending. Second one is the alleyway, where we are going to excavate down to a certain number of feet, like 2 or 3 feet down below, change the soil, put in a porous material on top, and a pavement concrete. It will be concrete looking. If it is an existing alley, is concrete. And
yeah, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I totally see what you're proposing now, but I'm just wondering if the ones that they're referencing that are problematic have the same underlying underground like design and were executed in the same way that these are being proposed, so that we're not like looking at something that maybe wasn't done up to this level, but was done more as like, these are here, let's do this, but not all the way underground like this is showing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. Tess, are you?
Yeah, I mean, these are like, there are a couple of them on Northwest DC that were constructed prior. So what does GI do is they will collect the storm sewer or the runoff from the adjacent streets, and then depending on the infiltration of the existing soil in that area, it will infiltrate, and then whatever amount that cannot be infiltrated, there is an under drain that will connect to the existing storm sewer. So whatever is not infiltrating will actually join to the existing storm sewer system.
So I think this question might be for Christian, that the maintenance is done by the Stormwater Management Group within DDOT.
Hey, Bo. Yeah, this is the real Christian. Yeah, so I was actually just doing some research as you guys were talking, and the one on 27th in Macomb is actually maintained. It was installed by us, but it's maintained by DOEE. So there are certain ones that have individual contracts, from my understanding. So I'm not sure how many are like the ones that are currently existing are under DOEE's contract, but I can get a contact with them and verify with you. But it seems like this particular project, because it's encompassed within our stormwater and drainage team, we do the maintenance and the installation for that.
Okay, so thank you. It sounds like DOE does not really do maintenance there. So we could we'll reach out to them and try to figure it out, and we'll talk to Amir. So thank you, Christian. And yeah, please continue with your presentation unless commissioners you have further questions about the maintenance of the bioretention areas.
No, I think that was really helpful to point out that some of these things are different. So, cool. Thank you.
What we are going to construct is DDOT has a standards green infrastructures, and this will be after we get a selections and goes through the whole process of getting a reviewed and approved, make sure there is no issue with any other elements on this. Then we will be designing this in accordance with the standards. Moving on to the next slide, which is, some more examples. As you can see, some of those curbside GI facilities along here and along here. This graphic is particularly on Virginia Avenue Southeast. As you can see, the nice GI facility with a railing surrounding it, so and have some sort of wider landing right next to the curb line for people who park so they can come out. This is a typical example of the alleyway. So those are the green infrastructures, the recommendations. Now I'm going to move on to the next major items, which is an extended detention facilities. And we have identified about 3 systems where we can intercept the runoff from the existing storm drainage and then detain it within this large size pipe and then discharge it back at a lower rate. So basically we are managing the peak flow discharge. And so this is the piping system that I am showing. This is within the alleyway. That's between 30th Street and Porter Street. The pipe diameter here is 96 inch, and the depth of pipe based on the grades point for here and here, the depth of pipe could go as deep as ranging from 20 to 30 feet deep.
And is that installed completely in public property?
Yeah, this whole system is within a public space.
Okay.
Within the alley right away.
Mhm. Okay.
I have a team of people who can answer your questions too, if you would like to have more details on this, but let me just run through it if it is okay with you to show you, and then we can have questions and answers at the end. So this is one location. The second location is and this is another alleyway parallel to Connecticut Avenue on the west side. And this is the alleyway connecting Ordway Street and Porter Street. We are trying to take the runoff from Ordway, extend it, detain in this area and discharge it to the existing storm drainage systems onto the on the Ordway Street. Grades here is a little bit better, so depth of the pipe, but the main 96 diameter pipe is anywhere between 15 to 20 feet. And again, all of this work will be done in a public space within alleyway right away. And the third location is all the way to, how do I shrink this? Third location is all the way right by the Porter Pringle interchange area. Is a little public space available here. So what we are doing is improving the major trunk line, taking care of all of the water that coming from the north side along Connecticut Avenue, intercept and put a brand new 54-inch trunk line along here. And then all of the runoff will go into an extended detention facility that's shown right here. And once it's detained, then it will be released at the lower rate at the same outfall that's existing now. And here the depth of this extended detention is anywhere between 10 to 20 feet, while the storm drainage, the slope along the Porter Street is really steep, and so we have a depth of that storm drainage systems is in some places about as deep as about 30 feet. So those are the mitigation that we are recommending. And at the same time, we are doing an environmental considerations. We have already done an inventory of all of those existing elements. The reports are also posted on the website. And then we are doing the level of NEPA analysis. That's next phase. After we have all of those preferred alternative got selected, then we will go and figure out what level of NEPA that we have to do. So what happened next is we are submitting a 30% design plan toward the end of May. The public information meeting will be sometime in June, July. Intermediate submissions for the 65% design will be sometime in summer 2022. Final design plan and bids, they should be ready for advertisement back in winter 2023, and construction will start summer 2023. And here is the project site, website that you can get those information. And what I just mentioned, we have a fact sheet posted on the website, and we have annual reports posted on the website, as well as we have a schedule posted on the website. And this presentation will be posted on the website as well. So our team will be glad to answer any question you may have.
Great, thank you. I believe
If
Commissioner
you
Siddiqui has a question.
can, I'm not sure who is controlling the audio, but if you can turn on the audio for Brian Smith, Surby Ashton, and Steve Walter, that would be helpful.
Do we have to make them co-hosts to unmute themselves?
Yes.
Okay. Give me a sec.
And Commissioner Packets, I believe you're the only one who has the power to make people co-hosts.
Oh, no, they unmuted themselves, so.
All right, everybody, please, if you're not speaking, keep the computer on mute.
I'm going to put myself on mute too until.
I muted Surby Ashton. That was where the noise was coming from.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Siddiqui. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I have a question. So can you both go back to your slide with the map of the watershed? Yeah, either of those is fine. So First Park and Pool has just been constructed on the top left corner, where you see that watershed, sewer-shed drainage area boundary starting. One of the issues is now there's like a lot of drainage problems after its construction at that site, where the football field is regularly wet. There's like weird drainage issues close to the tennis court. Have you, in your calculations of how much drainage you'll need and how much water is going to be draining off, did you incorporate the post-construction aspect of Hearst Park and Pool, or is this all based on data pre-construction?
Oh, one of the Christians is on mute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Prakash, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Prakash,
This is Brian Smith. I can speak if that's okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so to answer the commissioner's question, the drainage area analysis only did consider a existing condition probably from 2 or 3 years ago, because that's the data that we pulled from a GIS source database. So these specific problems that are mentioned would not be part of that, especially if they were constructed after that database was compiled.
Right, and I'm not asking you to solve those problems. I'm just saying that it seems like there will be way more drainage than you expected coming from that site now, given that it's been constructed and the way that it's been constructed.
Okay.
Is there a way to incorporate that in your analysis?
Well, we are perhaps. I believe we should, because we should do the current condition. So we've now been made aware of it. Of course, we have to understand what occurred there, whether that was some kind of diversion of area that is causing flooding that wasn't there before, or if it was some massive change in land cover. We'll have to investigate that. But
I think it's both, and it's a humongous underground spring that came out while they were doing the construction. So they were pumping water out of that and just putting it in the drains next to it too. And I think that, I don't know how they solved that problem, but I think, and again, I'm not asking you to solve the problems of First Park and Pool. I'm just saying, like, you should take that there's going to be way more water than you anticipated coming from the northwest side.
okay, understood. The storm sewers that you see on this map will be, you know, massively upgraded. I mean, that is part of the project. So, and primarily what that means is there'll be, you know, many more catch basins and larger catch basins, primarily at intersections, that will drink up the water so that we can handle it properly.
Okay.
All of the brown color that you see here, this is, we are upgrading the storm drainage systems. That goes, all of this right here.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, like, that's not close to where the site is. Like, there's big drainage issues coming down on Quebec, but I think I think as long as you're gonna look at revisit this with current conditions, I think that'll give you the information you need, because it's pretty bad right now.
Sure. Again, our limit is Porter roadway sewer site.
Yeah, to add on that, I mean, the project limited based on the amount of runoff or like the storm sewer draining to Porter Street. So, there is Melvin towards the north, and then there is Macomb towards the south. So depending on the area that you are talking, if it's flowing towards Porter Street, then we'll definitely include it. But if the runoff is basically going to Melvin or like the other watershed to Macomb Street, then that will be outside of the project.
Thank you. Commissioner McWood, do you have a question?
I do actually have a couple of questions. The first one is, this is all necessary because the federal government found that the city wasn't adequately handling stormwater. Is that correct? I know that's what we were told several years ago when this project started in this area. Is that still the reason for the project? We're still trying to comply with the federal standards?
So I can answer that. I can try to answer that. What happened is this area is growing on a phases. So when originally the storm drainage system was built, I guess it was adequate at that time. And the more growth came up, and Vomada built their tunnel systems on Connecticut Avenue, and things got modified. So what we are doing as a part of this project is we are trying to bring some of those features back and build and design and build to standards.
Okay. Another question I have then is, you've got three different infrastructure modes, if you will, to work together to solve the drainage issues. To what proportion are you going to rely on storm sewer system upgrades?
I'm gonna again try, and Brian can answer it, but the major items here is that extended detention system is going to help us a lot in taking care of some of those the flooding mitigation. Brian, you can elaborate further.
Yeah, that is correct. That's a good question. And we in our preliminary analysis, we do have a good sense of course, we have a fairly exact sense of what we need to do to mitigate the flooding. And the overarching target is to remove flooding occurring at Connecticut Avenue for 15-year storm. So the extended detention systems are the big piece of that. And this is very rough because we have to do detailed design and detailed modeling to get some exact numbers. But I would say roughly extended detention systems, those 3 systems that are in orange on the screen, will do about 60% of the legwork. The storm sewers, or maybe 65%, maybe 2/3. The storm sewers will do 30% of the work. And then the green infrastructure really is just icing on the cake. That'll do about 5 to 10%.
Okay, have you studied the effectiveness of the green infrastructure systems we have in place now and that we've had for several years?
Are
they working?
Yeah, I can comment on that. Just in kind of a very global scale. Green infrastructure primarily is effective, and this is good information for everybody. It's primarily effective for what's called a first flush type of storm event, meaning that downpour in the summertime, maybe 1.2 inches of rain, that carries most of the pollutions. So green infrastructure is good for treating water and removing pollutants, but admittedly, it's not intended to be effective for removing massive amounts of stormwater volumes that would occur during the 15-year storm event, which is what we're dealing with here. So that's why they're only, what I said, icing on the cake, maybe 5 or 10%. So they are effective for treating for water quality, and they provide other benefits as well. They're aesthetically pleasing and so forth, but and even help with climate change. But for doing what we need to do for this particular project, they're only minimally effective.
I'm not sure. I think we could have a debate about whether they're aesthetically pleasing.
Beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, well, I mean, according to a lot of my residents, they don't find them so aesthetically pleasing either. The other last question I had was, you showed the 30% design for Porter Ordway watershed, but you didn't show it for the other 2, including Macomb Newark. Do you have that prepared, and is that available on the website, or can you provide it to us?
We did not prepare, as Tess mentioned earlier. Those are not part of the project area because they don't contribute to the flooding at Cleveland Park Metro Station. We only included them in this presentation, just I guess for information, because they happen to be adjacent. But no, there's nothing prepared for those particular sewer sheds, and nothing will be proposed.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, any more questions? Okay. Anybody in the public who has a question, please raise your hand and we'll call on you and ask you to unmute. The raise hand function can be found under reactions, which is a little smiley face with a plus sign on it. Click that and then you can click raise hand.
Reactions.
Yep, Bonnie, we can hear you. You're good.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean about the yellow reactions. Thank you. I did have this question. I think Commissioner McWood just brought it up, but I live on the Macomb Street side that has enormous flooding. And that's why I was really interested in and wanted to hear about this report tonight, because stormwater and flooding has been a hideous problem for, well, decades. And I've been here for nearly 30 years because we're downstream of an underground stream and flooding and water that comes from Wisconsin down to Connecticut Avenue. So I just thought that this would be an obvious part to include in this study. I can't believe that it doesn't somehow affect the metro as well, but I just think that when you're doing this kind of really thorough, good study, why wouldn't you include the other 2 streets that have, especially Macomb, that has this enormous flooding? And my husband and I, we've had to spend $100,000 on fixing the piping of the city and the streams that go under our house that no one ever told us about, that are city pipes. And you know about this, I'm sure, and I don't need to tell you. And we need a manhole cover next to us, but they've dug up Macomb Street 3 or 4 times at great expense to the city and never fixed it, and digging down 14 feet in different places. And so I just thought this would be part of your study, because it's just been an ongoing problem that I can't believe wouldn't be tied into this. And Commissioner McWood has been trying to be on top of this, and I can name you many, many people from DDOT that we've been in touch with, but haven't met you personally, and I'm sorry about that. But I just wish you'd included Macomb Street, because this water problem and stormwater problem, drainage problem is just immense. And I'm not the only one. I mean, I have probably 10 neighbors to my west that have also had incredibly flooded basements, and none of this is covered by insurance. And so I just wish that this had been part of it, or that you'd consider thinking about Macomb Street going forward. Thank you.
All right. DDOT, did you want to respond?
I can respond to that. I mean, the project was initiated basically to mitigate flooding on Connecticut Avenue and the Cleveland Metro Station. So based on that, we drew the contributing drainage area based on the existing storm sewer network. And Macomb Street basically flows to Klingle Valley, which is outside of the project area. That's why it was not included on the. We understand there is like, undersized pipes, especially in all this Macomb and Melvin Hazen, but it's the goal of the project was to mitigate flooding on Connecticut and the metro station.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Paggett.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is a pretty large undertaking it's a large infrastructure project. What's the cost that was approved by DC government for this as of now, until we get underground and start to? What's the expense of this project in the budget? Because once we start extending it further and further, like my understanding is it was scoped and the budget was this way because, like, yes, we should be doing this citywide, of course. But what is the cost of this particular infrastructure project?
So we are, this is Prakash, we are at the initial phase of the design, and we know that a lot of elements like green infrastructures, because of the conflict with a lot of other elements really exist in this area, a lot of those may disappear. But, as a part of our MEP process, with the maximum extent practicable process that DOE accept, we have to show them that these are the potential locations where we can do a green infrastructures. And after we go through the next level of design and the final level of design, some of those may come down to, right now we are showing about 70 locations. Those 70 may come down to only maybe 10, I don't know. Exactly, it depends upon all other physical constraints that we are still looking at it. So we designers, we have not established the cost at this point yet.
Okay, thank you. We're pretty far behind schedule right now. Are there any more questions from the public or from commissioners? Okay, well, thank you very much, District Department of Transportation. We're glad you're here to give us this update, and we look forward to more.
Thank you so much.
Moving forward, we will now hear from DC Water regarding the Woodley Park project. And DC Water folks, could you raise your hands so that we can make you co-hosts if you're going to share anything? I see Emmanuel Briggs there. I didn't mean raise your physical hand, but yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's welcome too.
I'm not gonna lie, that was actually really helpful.
Great. Okay, and we also have Tatiana.
I'm on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So there's Jessica, Tatiana, and Pono on our project management team.
Thank you, Michael.
Excellent. All right. You should all be good now. Thank you.
Okay, do you all want to kick us off?
All right, so Tatiana, who would you like to, who's doing these slides this evening, Jessica or?
Yeah, I'll be presenting. Sorry, I couldn't
Okay.
unmute myself.
Okay, excellent.
So I just got the approval to unmute. Yeah, I don't know. Did you need
Sure,
to introduce
sure,
yourself, Emmanuel? Or
sure.
we can-
So yeah, so thanks for inviting us, Chairperson Finley. This is a routine, one of the many routine sewer inspection and cleaning jobs we're doing throughout the city. Under this contract, we're actually doing a total of 13 ANC areas. This is one of many. And so we are in phase 1 of this, which is April through June. Actually, all the different locations, they're all in the same phase, April through June. And so with that said, I'll let Jessica jump in and kind of take us through the slides that we prepared.
All right, so hello everyone. My name is Jessica Shao. I am the Systems Assessment Supervisor at DC Water. And I'll be running through the slides tonight to talk about our project. So this is a local sewers inspection and cleaning contract that we will be performing in the area. So at this time, under this contract, we will not be doing any construction or any excavation, any work of that sort. It's just inspection. This is the DC Water project team. We have Emmanuel Briggs, obviously, our community outreach manager. Tatiana, who's also here tonight, Tatiana Baranova, is the task manager for this project. So she's dealing with all the nitty gritty details. I'm Jessica, and Pono Hansen is our P3S task manager. So he's helping us run the project. And the boots on the ground is Nick Proxel, who is the project manager for Red Zone Robotics, who's the contractor for this project. So just to give you a really brief overview of the scope of this project, it's actually being done all over the city. And your area is just one of many. It's going to be about a 5-year contract, more or less. It's inspection and light cleaning of both sanitary and combined sewers that are owned by DC Water, owned and managed, that are between 13 inches and 16 inches in diameter. The goal is to inspect 40 miles across the city every year of pipes of that diameter. Let's see. So the type of work that's going to be done are manhole inspections, closed circuit television inspections of the pipes, multi-sensor inspection of the pipes, some pipe and manhole cleaning. And as I mentioned earlier, there's no digging or excavation involved in this project. So in this photo here, that's just an example of what you might see during a manhole inspection. You could see this on the street, on a sidewalk, or in the grass somewhere. And then sometimes if we're going into more wooded areas, we might have equipment that's loaded into an ATV. You may also see, especially for CCTV or multi-sensor inspection of larger pipes, you may see a large truck that's parked on the street and the robot will be lowered from there. So specifically for ANC3C, this is the area that's being inspected. So you can see the red is where the pipes will be inspected, and the yellow circles are the manholes where we're expecting to inspect and access the pipes from. And I can come back to that slide if we want to look at it later. Just to give you an idea of the schedule, our manhole inspections are starting this May, like this month. We haven't actually started in this area yet, but we will be shortly. The CCTV inspections, so that's the pipe inspections, will be starting in June. And we estimate that all activities should be completed by September of this year in this area, not for the whole contract, but for this area. The typical work hours that you'll see, our crews will be between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. If cleaning is necessary for any of the manholes or pipes, then that will be scheduled separately from the May and June activities. And that's it.
Great, thank you. What can we expect noise-wise from this?
It should be fairly minimal for the manhole inspections. It's just like a normal pickup truck that goes around and they take the equipment out of the truck. For the CCTV or multi-sensor inspections, it may be a little bit more noise because there'll be a box truck and they have all their equipment and stuff like that. Cleaning maybe also a little bit of noise, but it's nothing like you would experience in it's probably comparable to maybe street cleaning noise.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Okay, I don't see any. Does anybody from the public have questions? Please use the raise hand feature. Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much, DC Water. It's been nice of you to come out and do this presentation for us.
Thank you, Chairperson Finley, for having us tonight.
Have a good night.
You too. And let me see if I can unshare my screen. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Stop sharing.
So next up, we have the consideration of a Historic Preservation Review Board application for 3522 Quebec Street Northwest for a 2-story rear addition. Commissioner Siddiqui, is this in your SMD?
Yes, it is. And I believe Eric Teran is here, and I believe the homeowner is also here, I think. Yes, Anthony Allen. Perfect. I will make, can we make, Commissioner Pagas, can we make Eric Teran and Anthony Allen co-hosts? So if they need to unmute themselves. So yes, this is an application 3522 Quebec Street Northwest. This was presented at PNZ, and I circulated a draft resolution initially, and then the applicants actually made some edits in reducing the massing and as well as making a differentiation and proposing a model for the windows. So Mr. Turan, if you're here, you are welcome to present the new design, and I would urge you to only focus on the changes and the newest plans. Since we've already seen this once at PNZ, we only need to see the newest changes and the new designs just to make sure that we keep on time. And Anthony, I see you there as well. I'm going to invite you to also, if you would like to share anything with the commission before or after Mr. Turan's presentation, that would be great as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Siddiqui. My camera is not working right now, so you can't see my beautiful face. However, I will share my screen and I will just go over the changes. So the big change is we reduced it another foot. Originally it was 28 feet, then we went to 23, and now we're at 21 feet from the building. Let me go to the first floor. So the big thing is, we're going 21 feet past the rear yard, going across 26 foot 2 1/4 inch, and we're on both sides. We're have an indentation of 6 inches to separate the new from the old. Also, we worked on the roof a little bit, and let me go to the roof plan. Here you see it. So this is the rear elevation. And if we really zoom in, it's 4 inches lower than the height of the existing roof. I think we can see it over here as well. So this is new roof all the way to the right. This new roof is over the existing portion, which basically forms a corridor to get to the addition. We can also see that we updated the windows. The existing windows are going to be new, but they're going to be replaced, but with exact same style, 6/1. There are a few windows which are just one light. And you see that in the front as well. So we've gone ahead and made sure that the drawings represent what's really there. And I believe the last thing, I'll show you a section of the new and the old. So this is a section where we have the corridor, a new bathroom, or there's an existing bathroom and we're replacing it with a new one. with the new roof here. And these are the closets with the existing roof sloping towards the rear yard. And then when we get back to the room, we have a higher pitch roof, and we have a roof at the end, which helps provide the massing be a little shorter. So we go to the side elevation again. This right here, you see the second floor is pushed back 1.5 feet back. So the second floor is really 19 feet 6 with a roof that slopes. And we can look at the back elevation one more time where you can see that. So this massing along here as it's sloping is a little bit less than for the second floor. Just help a little bit with the shadow and light onto the neighbor. One other thing that we did not present in the earlier versions was on this bump out here in the existing portion, we are proposing to provide more lighting to basically turn this into a sunroom. And there is existing planting here that does screen from the neighbor to the east and to this house. And so I believe that's it. Reduced it. We put the, we separated from the existing and the new, lowered the roof a little bit, and we conformed with existing windows, make sure they're matching what's there. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. And I appreciate you all making changes after hearing back from neighbors as well as from me about some of the concerns. So appreciate that, making that so quickly. I'll just do two quick questions for matters of clarification, and then I will switch over to other commissioners. But before I do that, Mr. Allen, did you want to add anything? Or are you okay?
Yeah, not at this time. It's a new process for us. We've been in the neighborhood for 7 years. It's a great vibe in the neighborhood, and yeah, we're just kind of learning about the process now. But thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Great. So, Mr. Chairman, just two questions. First question is, I know that there is one neighbor that had objected to the original massing, and that's the neighbor right adjacent. I was wondering, and you said this to me in email, I just want to make sure that we can also put it at the meeting over here. Is there a possibility to reduce the massing even further, or will that sort of really impact the project?
So it's more, I think, excuse me, Historic Preservation Review Board issue. I did speak to Steve Calcutt, who's a representative or the staff reviewer for this area. When I proposed that, we could push the addition, maybe about 3 or 4 more feet back. However, this existing roof line would have to be sacrificed, and it'd basically be all new roof back here. He did not like that idea. He thought that was more of an issue. He preferred the existing portion, basically remaining intact. He preferred this option.
Okay, thank you. And then the second question I have is, I heard from another neighbor who didn't oppose the massing and the size of it, but did want you to discuss the windows that were being put up. And I know in the original plans, the windows weren't there, and you've clarified a little bit what the windows look like this time. Before you go to the HPRB, will you be able to discuss the windows with that neighbor as well?
Yes, I know Mr. Allen is definitely, he's a go-getter. He's been speaking to all the neighbors, so he's really good at that.
Yeah, we've had everybody in the neighborhood open, over to our house many times. So it's, again, just a very great vibe in the neighborhood. It's Lane. Lane just doesn't want us looking into his windows, and so he's totally open. We even discussed different options there. So yeah, it's definitely going to be taken care of, and Lane will give his thumbs up.
Awesome. Thank you. I guess I will turn it over to other commissioners if they have any questions.
I had a question actually for you, Commissioner Siddiqui. The second to last resolve is, at least in the draft that I have, which has to do with indenting between the original and the proposed. Since the applicant has made that change, is that resolve still part of the resolution?
No, Commissioner McWood. So thank you for bringing that up. I actually sent you all an updated one. I know it was like 5 minutes before the meeting, or like maybe 30 minutes, but Commissioner McWood, I also put in the chat the new resolution. And so
Okay.
that resolve has been removed.
Okay,
And I was going to read the resolution once we were done with questions.
okay. The other question I had is the resolution talks about the lot occupancy increasing by 42%. I guess this is for the applicant. What is the lot occupancy with the proposal?
So that has also been updated in the new resolution, Commissioner McWood, but I'll let Mr. Tran answer that.
Yeah, the existing lot occupancy was 24.4, and with the addition, it's 34.3.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other commissioner? Oh, go ahead, Commissioner.
So I actually was going to ask you to read the resolution, and then we'll have a discussion on the resolution, and then seek comment from the public as well.
Okay. So I've pasted the resolution in the chat. Let me read the whole resolution because it's new. It just happened today. So this is regarding Historic Preservation Review Board application for 3522 Quebec Street Northwest, HPA 22-273. Whereas the owners of a home at 3522 Quebec Street Northwest, a contributing structure to the Cleveland Park Historic District, have filed an application to the Historic Preservation Review Board, HPA 22-273, for a 2-story plus cellar addition at the rear of the residence. Whereas 3522 Quebec Street Northwest is a bungalow built in 1920 and is located on the south side of Quebec Street Northwest. Whereas the dimensions of the proposed addition, which provides 6 inches indentation from the existing house, are 21 by 26.18 feet and will require the removal of a small rear addition and of the existing garage. Whereas the existing lot occupancy is being increased from 24.4% to 34.3% and is 4 inches lower than the existing house. Whereas the windows in the proposed addition are casement with 1 light. Whereas the windows in the existing house are new to match the existing style of a double hung with 6/1 or sliding with 1 light. Whereas there's 1 new section of windows within the existing house at the bump out along the east facade. Whereas the addition differentiates itself from the original house with 6 inches indentation on both sides as standard in additions to historic houses. Whereas the addition cannot be seen from the street from the front of the house, and there will be no changes to the front of the house. Whereas the ANC has received 1 objection to the design from the most adjacent neighbor to the east. Whereas the ANC has received 1 conditional support to the design from a neighbor, given that the design of the windows is developed in conjunction with the neighbors. And whereas the ANC has received 10 additional letters of support from the neighbors. Be it resolved that ANC3C does not object to the size and scale of the new addition. Be it further resolved that ANC3C requests the applicant to work with the neighbors on the design of the windows before seeking approval from the HPRB. Be it further resolved that the ANC authorizes the chair and the commissioner for 3C05 to represent the commission on this matter.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, commissioners, let's discuss the resolution at hand. Are there any questions for Commissioner Siddiqui or proposals? Okay, seeing none, let's go to our neighbors. Does anybody in the community have any questions about the resolution or about the proposal at hand? I see Christine Hobbs. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Thank you. I'm Christine Hobbs. I'm on the Architectural Review Committee, and I'm pleased to see that many of the suggestions that we had made about this property have been accepted by the owners and the architect. Including the indentation and reducing the size of the addition. I actually have 2 questions I'm a little unclear on. The windows on the addition are single pane, is that correct?
Correct.
Yes. Okay, and I was unclear. The neighboring bungalow, who was probably going to be most impacted by this, have they? What is their reaction to this new design?
Anthony, have you been able to speak to Mary?
I'm sorry.
I have not, but I see Mary on the participants list.
So that neighbor has not been spoken to yet?
Not with this new design.
Okay,
We finished this last night.
okay, all right. Thank you.
Chair Finley, you're on mute.
Thank you, Commissioner Siddiqui. Does anybody else have questions about the resolution or the application?
Well, this is Mary Johnson.
Mary.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing? Welcome.
Good. No, thank you for, including me in the process. And yes, as was mentioned, I did not see this latest version until just now. So I haven't really had a chance to process it or take it in, but I know that you received my letter explaining some of my concerns, and I would just like to reiterate what those concerns are. First, I want to say that I don't object to an addition in principle. My concerns are about the size and scale of this particular plan. And I do know that, I do see from the presentation this evening that there were some adjustments made to indentation of 6 inches and 4 inches lower of the roof line. My initial reaction is I don't really feel like that is a material change in terms of the overall massing. I am the immediate next door neighbor. And so I would say, most directly impacted. As I pointed out in my letters, of the sister bungalow. I'm the other bungalow on the block. So, I have concerns that the proposal is really out of scale with regard to the scale of a bungalow and also the neighboring properties where it's extending much far out to the back than its neighboring houses. So to me, it would be a significant departure from the historic block plan where, at least on the south side of Quebec Street, the lots are fairly modest size, and the ratio of built space to open space is more balanced than what is being proposed here. And I've mentioned, of course, in the letter that I do have concerns that, not from a historic perspective, but just, concerns about water runoff, et cetera, from a roof line of that magnitude. As the next door neighbor, I realize that other neighbors have a different perspective, literally a different perspective, and figuratively. And so, those maybe on the other side of the street don't necessarily have the same relationship to the architecture that I would. It would really impact, something of this size would really impact the spatial experience and use of my yard. It would put a real shadow on a very small lot that I already have in terms of space for my garden and for and sort of the heat on that side of the house. So I do want to just, I won't go over everything that's in my letter because I know you've got that, but I do feel the addition is still disproportionately large in relation to the bungalow itself and the neighboring homes. I very much value my neighbors. I have lived here since 1968 when my parents bought the house. It was a very significant time in DC and in our nation's history where just moving to this neighborhood was instrumental. Being a person of color and given the history of the inability of people in my parents' position to do that, to be in this neighborhood and to grow up here and experience a warm and open and welcoming community was something that my siblings and I were very fortunate to experience, and that I've been able to experience, share that with my son. And I do feel like that is both in part, to the people that are in the neighborhood, and also to its architecture, to a architecture that is proportional and in scale with its surrounding community, that fosters a sense of both privacy, but as well as community. And so, I hope that my concerns, as I said, are taken in the spirit in which they are intended, which is just that, I would like to see an addition that meets the Allens' needs, which, I understand their needs of wanting to have another bedroom on the upper floor, but one that also is proportional and, more in keeping with the surrounding homes and me as the immediate neighbor. So I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Are there any, Commissioner Paget, you have your hand up.
Thank you for your comments and voicing your concerns. And I was looking at the Google Maps, but I'm wondering if y'all in your deck, and I apologize, I haven't seen this version in detail yet, but do you have the aerial of the neighboring homes and how big they are compared to their lot size, just so that we're all speaking in the same thing? Okay. And ma'am, you're at the one lot 80 and 81.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Okay. And from like the Google view, like there's a pretty significant tree canopy there. So we were talking about like blotting out the sun. It's nice to have that much shade. A lot of people I think would be jealous of that.
Well, I do have a lot of shade in the front. I did, I'm my dad was the real gardener in terms of his pastime. So I'm trying my best to keep all of his plants that he planted alive and well. I've also, been working very hard on my home vegetable garden, which was a big COVID project for me. And so those garden beds are right in that area on, on that side, as well as some on the other side. So then the light is important to me.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, sorry to interrupt, but
no,
I
no
just
problem.
the lots on the other sides are the ones that seem to be the ones that aren't, comparable in size. So I would think that we'd be hearing from them more if it was a problem in the neighborhood. Because looking at this diagram, it's not overwhelming, in my opinion. And yes, I do get the difficulties of gardening in sunshine. That's, yes.
So, okay, thank you, Commissioner Paget. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Are there any other comments from the public? Okay, Commissioner Dyer, did you have any questions?
Oh, no, no, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and Commissioner Siddiqui, are you ready for us to move to a vote? Are there any amendments to Commissioner Siddiqui's proposal as written and read?
I'll move it forward to.
Thank you.
But I just want to make a very quick comment. I do want to thank Ms. Johnson for engaging with me and talking to me. I think she's been a wonderful, person to engage with on this, and I think she made her opinions clear to us, to all of us. And Ms. Johnson, I'm really sorry that the outcome from our body isn't coming out to the way that that you might like. I think for us, historic preservation is primary, and while I totally agree with you that there's issues on your end, unfortunately, there's only so much we can do with this. I encourage you to also go to the HPRB. Well, this will be heard next, and make your opinions clear there. They're much more historic preservation review experts, more than us, and I hope they do listen to you and take your comments into consideration. But with that quick note, I would like to move the resolution as presented.
Second.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. One last call for amendments. Okay. All those in favor of the resolution as written, commissioners, please turn on your camera and raise your hand. All those opposed? Commissioner McWood and Commissioner Fink, are you there, Commissioner McWood? And are you a no?
Commissioner McWood, you're on mute.
My video's on, but you can't see me because the screen share is on. I voted for the resolution.
Thank you. And is Commissioner Fink still with us? He is. Commissioner Fink?
Voting yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so all those opposed, that doesn't leave anybody. All those abstained. All right, the motion passes. Thank you, Commissioner Siddiqui, for your work, and thank you to the applicant and for everybody in the community who engaged on this. So, and then
Good work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so next up we have the consideration of historic preservation review board application regarding Uptown Theater landmark application.
Commissioner Finley, actually, isn't it the Safer Streets?
I'm sorry, you're correct. It's the resolution regarding supporting passage of the Safer Intersections Amendment Act of 2022 and upgrading tactical safety projects Amendment Act of 2022. And Commissioner Siddiqui, this is also your resolution, is it not?
Yes, and I believe Commissioner Pagets has also contributed to this.
Yes. Who would like to present it?
Yeah, and so I'm going to paste the resolution in the chat so that everyone can read it. This resolution has been discussed twice at our ANC3C Safe, Sustainable, and Equitable Transportation Committee meeting. I want to expressly thank Warren Gorlick. He is the original author of the resolution. And I also want to thank our Transportation Committee, Tammy Gordon, Naiwa Dwan, Michael Reifer, as well, because they contributed heavily to this as well. And I think what we ended up with was a very nice resolution, given the debate that we also had over email. In the interest of time, I will actually just go ahead and read the resolves, and we can discuss from then. So, therefore, be it resolved that Advisory Neighborhood Commission 3C urges the Council of the District of Columbia in calendar year 2022 to consider and pass the Safer Intersections Amendment Act of 2022, Bill 24673, and the Upgrading Tactical Safety Projects Amendment Act of 2022, Bill 240674. Urges the Council of the District of Columbia to amend the existing Safer Intersections Amendment Act of 2022 to require, quote, no turn on red, end quote, signage on all intersections with audible crossing signals and within 400 feet of a senior care residential or daycare facility and any other intersection within 400 feet of where a resident older than 65 resides and who has requested such signage within 90 days of such request being submitted to DDOT through the district's 311 online request system. Urges the Council of the District of Columbia to amend the existing Safer Intersections Amendment Act of 2022 to require DDOT, to undertake a public education campaign to inform both drivers and pedestrians about the Idaho Stop and amendments to the District Traffic Act legalizing the rider behaviors enumerated in the Act, and to require DDOT to undertake annual surveys in the years following the Act's passage to provide a measure of the public's awareness of these changes. Urges the Council of the District of Columbia to require DDOT to undertake a district-wide transportation safety study on bicycle pedestrian conflict and to report to the Council with recommendations to improve the District of Columbia's transportation statutes, policies, and infrastructure to minimize the potential for such conflict. Urges DDOT to consider additional safety improvements for pedestrians, including pedestrian hybrid beacons, hawk signals, and ANC3C on all intersections, including adding painted crosswalks where none exist, and prioritizing intersections with a history of crashes. Request that DDOT consider installing advanced signals and/or queue jump lanes for buses and cyclists to provide further clarity of priority for safety on our roads. Urges Mayor of the District of Columbia, Muriel Bowser, to sign these bills into law, and urges DDOT to implement the enacted legislation as expeditiously as possible. Be it further resolved that the ANC authorize the chair and the commissioners for 3C03 and 3C05 to represent the commission on this matter.
Is there a second? All seconded.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Siddiqui. All right, discussion. Commissioner Siddiqui, do you want to give a little more background as to why we're looking at this right now?
Sure. So the reason we're looking at this is that car crashes are among the biggest killers in the district. They last year killed more children than COVID-19 did. They are responsible for a bunch of the injuries that happen here. I know on Connecticut Avenue, just last week, someone was killed crossing the street, and it was actually in front of one of the senior care centers where they were killed. We know what happened at the Parthenon restaurant, where a driver crashed into a restaurant where numerous people were, and people died in that as well. So both these bills seek to improve the safety of our intersections and also tactical projects. So the first one has to do on intersections with allowing bicyclists and people on scooters, if they're on the road, to be able to treat stop signs as yield signs, and to also treat red lights as yield signs as well. That allows them to have the momentum to move forward, as they're stopping in a stop sign. Sometimes it can be difficult and actually lead to injury. And then at a red traffic light, it allows them to go in front of trucks and cars, because the biggest accidents that happen with bicyclists is when cars are turning right and there's a bicyclist right next to them and they can't see it, or as the light turns green, both cars and bicyclists move at the same time. And so both of these, the Idaho stop in particular, there's evidence that it's been tested in certain jurisdictions, and the council bill cites that evidence that it has made safer, not just for bicyclists, but for everyone. I know that there were some objections to thinking about, allowing bicyclists to kind of treat red lights as yield signs, and what that would lead to behavior change, what that would lead in terms of like thinking that bicyclists are allowed to break the law. I just want to clarify that what we discussed in the Transportation Committee was it's not allowing bicyclists to break the law. It's changing the laws, similar to how pedestrians don't have to look at red lights for cars. It's sort of giving bicyclists more clarity of what they can do. Totally, one of the things that was brought up, I believe also by Commissioner McWood over email, was there's little evidence of how this works in real time. And so that's why we, the committee added a ton of caveats of what we wanted included in there to be able to make it safer for bicyclists. The second one that we're asking within this is also coming up for a vote at the same time. It's the Tactical Safety Projects Amendment Act. This one occurs because often DDOT will implement certain temporary fixes in terms of trying to calm traffic. This can be anywhere from temporary speed humps to changing to expanding the turn lanes so that cars are slower when they're going around intersections. Often for DDOT to do permanent things, it takes DDOT a very long time to be able to do them. This one allows DDOT to actually expeditiously, anything that's there for pedestrian, car and bicycle safety, for them to expeditiously change it to a permanent fixture. And there's a certain minimum requirement of a certain percentage that they can do each year. And so this one, again, safety of everyone who uses our roads, but primarily pedestrians, is priority over here. And so if the safety, if there's a temporary thing in place that DDOT has put in, and it's been doing really well, it allows DDOT to upgrade it to permanent without going through the entire process. So I'll pause there, and I see commissioners already have questions.
Well, and Commissioner Paggis, did you want to add on to that since you're one of the co-sponsors here?
Yeah, I just wanted to note that everything Swally said is true, and of course now they're vacuuming in my office, but this is district-wide. This is not specific to Ward 3. And the breadth and swath of traffic violence and all of this that's been happening throughout the district is, I know we cited what's happening in Ward 3. it's district wide, and we need to, take some bites and eat the elephant here with this. And these are just some small things that we can do district wide to improve this situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pegas. Okay, Commissioner Dyer.
Hi, I just had one question. You mentioned in the introduction about the unfortunate incident, the Parthenon restaurant. What in this bill would have prevented that?
That's a really good question. So in particular, the tactical safety improvements. So if DDOT were to have put more barriers, like temporary barriers over there, it would allow them to make it more permanent. But nothing in particular, for that particular one, we don't have the traffic calming that we have right now, that we're hoping this bill provides to be able to reduce accidents like that. So in some ways, you're right. If this bill was passed, sure, that accident would still have happened. But I think our goal is to make sure that accidents similar to that, involving cars killing people who are sitting on the side of the road, or cars killing pedestrians or bicyclists, happen less.
Because I mean, that really was just an unfortunate sort of freak accident, correct?
So Commissioner Dye, I respect that there was in some ways a accident that we can say that the person driving the car is had like a medical condition, and totally agree with that. My view of this is that it was allowed to happen because of our infrastructure. So I never like blaming the person for that. I think that could have happened to anyone, but the way we've designed our road infrastructure means when a freak accident happens, it's more likely to kill people. And so what at least we're trying to do with this resolution is say, let's change the infrastructure. And I agree with you that this doesn't do sweeping changes, right? Because those are very, very difficult. But what we're trying to do is say, let's change the infrastructure so that when the next time a freak accident happens, people aren't killed.
Agreed. I had one other quick question too about this Idaho stop and treating stop signs as yield signs. In a place like Georgetown, for example, where you're going through and you're stopping at every block for a stop sign, it seems to me that this Idaho stop would allow bicyclists to sort of come out of nowhere and just blow right by you, even though you are completely complying with the law as the driver, and then you're making a right turn, for example, after a complete stop. And what do you say about that?
So if a bicyclist blows through a stop sign, they are breaking the law even under this, because they're not treating it like a yield sign. If they treat it like a yield sign, a bicycle, when it's treating like a yield sign, slows down so that it's almost moving right before it, and then it can just speed up if there's no car there. And so that's one thing to it, that it's not an actual like, let's just let bicyclists run through stop signs. That would definitely be illegal. But a slow bicycle speeding up takes a lot more time for a car than a car that can accelerate very quickly. The other very quick thing, just to add, Commissioner Dyer, because I believe these are really, really good questions that help outline why we're doing this, is that this was brought up in our transportation committee too, that there are bicyclists that will speed past stop signs. There are bicyclists that speed past red lights right now. There are bicyclists that speed past stop signs right now as well. They are breaking the law. This law won't change their behavior that is illegal. But what this does allow to do is it allows people who currently feel unsafe bicycling to actually feel safer. And for studies that have actually, the stop sign is actually better documented in the literature than the red light one. The stop sign one actually has documentation that actually reduces crashes and also like makes it safer for everyone who's using the road.
Thank you.
Commissioner McWood.
Thank you. There are things, Commissioner Siddiqui, there are things about this resolution I really like. There are things about this resolution that really give me heartburn and make me very worried. So let me just start with the Safer Streets bill. The one of your whereas, your 1, 2, 3, 4, your fifth whereas lists the jurisdictions that I guess you have authorized partial Idaho stops. You say here that they treat stop signs as yield signs. I'm assuming that Idaho is the jurisdiction that also has authorizes cyclists to just stop at red lights and then move on. What I would really like to see, and I can explain it a bit more, is to support the stop signs as yield signs, sort of a partial Idaho, similar to the jurisdictions that you cite, but not treating a red light as a stop sign. I think the amount of traffic at a traffic stop intersection is typically greater than at a stop sign. Stop signs are usually on local streets. One of the roadway users that I'm particularly concerned about are pedestrians. And the conflict between pedestrians and bikes, I don't know what the numbers are, but I think just emotionally and psychologically, cyclists can be harrowing for some pedestrians, particularly older pedestrians. So what I'd like to see is a phased-in approach to see if how cyclists and other users that would be considered that category of user, how they respond to using stop signs as yield signs, and how it affects other roadway users before giving the green light, if you will, for choice of words, to cyclists being able to just stop and then continue on at a traffic traffic light. I mean, one of the reasons you give for doing it is that it would allow cyclists to maintain their momentum. Well, once they've stopped, they've lost their momentum. So I don't see that as a reason. And I really want to protect pedestrians. So that would be my suggestion as far as that part of the bill is concerned. As far as eliminating or banning right turns on red, I'm totally behind that. I think that is an excellent suggestion. And I think as far as signage is concerned, we shouldn't have sort of some signs, some places, some sign and no signs other places. I think it should be, if this becomes the law, I think it should be advertised through the DMV and anywhere else where perhaps at portals into the city, so that it becomes clear that this is no longer allowed anywhere in the district for any reason. So I'll stop there. I've got some other comments I wanted to make about the other bill, but those are my comments on the Safer Streets bill.
So I just had one quick clarification, Commissioner McWood. Bicyclists aren't under this, they wouldn't be allowed to treat a red light as a yield sign. They
No, it's a
treat the
stop.
red light as a stop sign. So they're not going to be, no one's going to be rolling through a red light. They will be at a stop and then they will decide to go forward. I'm trying to see, I guess there's no other commissioner, so maybe I can respond to some of the other stuff as well, if that's okay. Or
Okay.
Commissioner McWood, would you like to finish your thoughts?
Sure, I'd be happy to. The other bill, is that covered? Oh yeah. There's only one whereas on that bill. It's the last whereas, and it says that the legislation would upgrade successful tactical projects with more durable blah, blah, blah. I read the bill and it mandates that 20% of all of the temporary tactical projects be made permanent every year. So over the next 5 years, 100% of them would be made permanent. It doesn't discuss, or at least I don't recall, it discusses anywhere a procedure where there would be a mechanism or a process whereby DDOT would evaluate whether the temporary projects are worthy of being made permanent. It simply mandates that they do it 20% a year. The other concern I have about that is that these temporary projects haven't gone through notice of intent. So ANC's residents haven't gotten the opportunity to actually comment on these temporary projects. And there's nothing in the bill that would provide a replacement for not having had any ability to comment or evaluate these projects. There's no required notice of intent before DDOT would make them permanent. So you're taking a temporary project where no one was allowed to comment on it, and you're making it permanent, and you're not having any sort of evaluation as to whether it's even effective. So that gives me great pause about that. So I really don't want to support that bill for those reasons. So I've really got quite a dilemma here. Be great if you could bifurcate the two.
Right. I've taken notes on to respond to you, Commissioner McCoy, but I want to see if any other commissioners wanted to jump in, because I don't want to be the only one talking, especially Commissioner Pagets. I don't know if you have anything.
Let me add one more comment. So you've got the entire breadth of my comments. The fifth resolve that urges DDOT to consider additional safety improvements for pedestrians. I would support that if you would eliminate including hawk signals, because it gives the impression that what we are proposing is hawk signals at every intersection, and I think that would be awful. So if you just took out the hawk signal condition there, including hawk signals, then
what if it said including but not limited to? Because that might probably.
I don't want to be suggesting that ANC3C is recommending that DDOT put hawk signals on every local intersection, every local street intersection throughout our neighborhoods. I don't think we have the volume of pedestrian traffic, nor have we isolated a problem or defined a problem that we would be solving there. I think that's overkill.
I think, but the idea being that DDOT consider, not implement.
But why? It's not proportional. It's just not proportional to. We haven't defined a problem other than we want to have painted crosswalks. That's an excellent suggestion.
The pedestrian deaths kind of identify the problem themselves. But how about?
But I think pedestrian deaths don't tend to be at local street intersections. I think they tend to be on arterials. I'm not sure about that, but that's my impression.
They're unfortunately all over.
So, Commissioner McWood, what if we just said, for example?
Well, isn't the objection to on all intersections in ANC3C, or are you saying on certain intersections?
It's not necessarily like the hawk, like what you see on the Cleveland Park, like between Macomb and Porter. Like that hawk signal is not what we're proposing. What we know is happening is there's not crosswalks on every intersection. So for example, if you look at Cathedral and Connecticut, you have to cross a couple times in a crosswalk to get to the other side of the street that you're trying to get to. That's not convenient for people walking outside of car. So, and the hawk, I'll have to look at this again, and maybe it was confusing, but it wasn't like the beg button hawk. It was like, we need to put crosswalks and have the pedestrian signal that gives them, you know, the countdown of how long you have to cross the street at every single possible crossing. And the same thing happens down at Woodley Park, right in front of the Metro Rail station, which is just mind-boggling to me that you have to cross, you know, a few traffic lanes to out of your way to get to where you're going.
So also, Commissioner McWood, I just got reminded of the intersection that you and I probably care about the most, which is Newark and 34th, right? That's a very, very dangerous intersection. So I totally agree with you that maybe we don't want to say put hawk signals everywhere. And Commissioner Finley just commented, what if we said including pedestrian,
including pedestrian hybrid beacons, hawk signals, where applicable.
I like that. Commissioner McWood, how's that? Where applicable? I will take that.
I appreciate the effort to try to make this. I mean, this isn't my major issue with the resolution, but I don't know what applicable means. You know, I think we said what we meant when you stated consider additional safety improvements for pedestrians and prioritizing intersections with a history of crashes. I mean, you can keep it including adding painted crosswalks where none exist. I think that has general support in the neighborhood. Never heard of anyone who has objected to a crosswalk. But I think suggesting a lot of pedestrian hybrid beacons and hawk signals without discussion in the community is overstepping, and it's not necessary in order to make the statement that we want additional safety improvements for pedestrians.
So
And
go ahead, Commissioner Packets.
I guess the other thing that I am concerned / confused about is why we are trying to continue to do traffic safety road design by committee and by community, where there are urban planning professionals, there are traffic safety professionals, there are people who go to school for this, that study this, that read the reports, that, you know, they're the scientists, they're the engineers. I think that there's a bit of safety lapses that come by having a little bit. I get public input. I think it's important, but I think there's a balance here to be had, and it can't be like every speed hump ever approved needs like everybody who's ever used the road to say yes. So if you can,
I don't think that's what.
But if you can explain to me, you know, why there is that need for that input when, in theory, the DDOT, the consultants, and all of that are already taking in the input from the community and what they observe when they go out and do the investigations.
Well, you know, we're not listening to DDOT on this particular resolution. DDOT testified opposing both of these bills. So, you know, DDOT does have experts. That doesn't mean that you don't discuss their data, their findings. DDOT isn't omnipotent. I think public dialogue is always a positive. And I have a great deal of trust in the experience and the wisdom of our constituents. And I think they ought to be notified about these things. I think they ought to have an opportunity to comment. If they choose not to comment, that's fine. But I don't want an autocratic government where things just happen and you wonder how they happened and why they happened, and you never had the opportunity to engage.
And neither do I. And it's very ironic that Commissioner Siddiqui and I both testified in opposition of Director Lott's appointment. So, and it was passed without, you know, a council vote and all of that. So I agree with you about autocratic governments, for sure.
So I just want to just quickly respond to Commissioner McWood's concerns. First, Commissioner McWood, I posted a link to the Idaho stop in the chat, so you can see like where it was implemented in the history and where both of those things were implemented, where a single thing was implemented. Your second concern was about pedestrians being wary of cyclists. There is, if you look at all the data, by far the biggest killers are cars. There's very rarely a bicyclist killing a pedestrian and injuring a pedestrian. Now, I will give you you are right in a way that enough study hasn't been done on it. And we don't know if enough study hasn't been done because it hasn't shown up as a problem, or if it is a problem and just the study hasn't been done. And so that's one of the reasons why we asked for collecting data on this, is to sort of nullify that. It was, you know, was this idea. And towards your comment about like keeping the stop sign one, but not the red light one, you know, I think when we discussed this twice in the transportation committee, there was enough support to be like, we want to see the other one through as well. Especially given the way that the bill is passing through council, people wanted to see both and just asked for more review once it was approved. So that's why both of them were added. The only last quick thing I'll say, because I know we're getting to a very long meeting, is about the temporary barriers. I agree with you. I mean, yes, community should have input when their neighborhood has changed, and that's why we're here, right? But these are for safety. They're not, you know, other projects. And I agree with you that if people don't want those temporary safety fixes, then they can object to them and get them removed. Case in point, the barriers that were put up in front of Silver Diner. Eventually, I know they weren't listening to us, but eventually they're removed now. So I'm not saying those were part of the safety barriers, but I believe if a safety barrier has been in place and it's only for safety, then I think it deserves the pedestrians that it be turned into permanent. And I think doing it 20% a year is a good way to phase it out. And if in the first year it seems like it is really objectionable to the community, I'm sure people will have action. So I'll pause there and maybe move to a vote.
Well, commissioners, is there further discussion? Commissioner Dyer?
Sorry, Chairman.
Sorry, I would support Commissioner McWood's point about bifurcating the two, if that's possible.
Okay. Commissioner McWood, are you proposing an amendment?
Sure, I will. I would move that we separate out the whereases and the resolves referencing B24-0674 Upgrading Tactical Safety Projects Amendment Act of 2022.
Okay, is there a second? Commissioner Dyer, if you would support that, this is where you'd say second.
Second.
Okay, and so we're going to first move to commissioner discussion of the proposed amendment, and I know we may have just exhausted it, and then we'll move to the discussion with the community on the amendment as proposed by Commissioner McWood. So commissioners, is there further discussion? I know we did just cover a lot of this ground, but is there further discussion on the proposed amendment? Okay, hearing none. Open up the floor to the community. If you would like to comment on the proposed amendment to the resolution, please raise your hand. We'll then, after discussion, we'll have a vote on the amendment and then proceed back to discussion on the resolution as it may or may not be amended. Commissioner Paggett, you have a question?
We're discussing the possibility of amending it. Commissioner Siddiqui hasn't accepted this change.
Yeah, that's irrelevant. The amendment has been proposed and seconded.
Right.
So now we'll be discussing the amendment itself.
As is changed.
Just what Commissioner McWood proposed.
Okay.
Not the overall resolution, just the proposal.
Thank you. Just wanted to be clear.
Sure. Okay, if you would like to comment, please use the raise hand feature. You'll click reactions and then choose raise hand. Reactions, it has a little smiley face with a plus sign. All right, seeing no discussion from the public, we move to a vote on the proposed amendment. No, seconded. All those in favor of the amendment as proposed by Commissioner McWood, please raise your hand and keep it up. Okay, we've got 2. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Okay, all those abstaining, I think it's just the 5 of us right now. So the proposed amendment fails. Thank you. Now we move back to discussion of the resolution without any amendments. Okay, is there further discussion on the resolution? Okay, is there discussion on the resolution from the community? Again, please choose the reactions button and choose raise hand, or if you're having trouble figuring that out, please comment in the chat that you'd like to ask a question. Okay, moving forward, we seem to have exhausted discussion, and so now we move to a vote. Is that everybody okay with that? Looks like it. Okay. All those in favor of the resolution as proposed by Commissioners Siddiqui and Paggets, please raise your hand. All those opposed? All those abstaining? Okay, the motion passes. Thank you, Commissioner Siddiqui. And I guess it goes right back to you, Commissioner Siddiqui. This is a big night for you. So thank you.
Yes. Incredibly busy. So in the interest of time, and since giving with the convention that we've been doing for the other resolutions, I'm going to paste the resolution in the chat.
And this is the consideration of a Historic Preservation Review Board application regarding the Uptown Theater landmark application.
Yes. And I will go ahead and read the resolves to save us time as well. Therefore, be it resolved that ANC3C has no objection to landmark the iconic facade, marquee, and uptown sign, as long as the marquee will exclude the areas where the films are listed, the operator's branding signage is located, and also exclude any additional tenants' branding signage. Be it further resolved that ANC3C urges the HPRB to remove all mention of any parking lot from the application and the linkage of the uptown to the automobile-centered pattern of growth through technical edits, specifically including, but not limited to, the last sentence of the summary and the removal of the passage in the Statement of Significance, Section 8, page 9, quote, its construction also reflected the increasing importance of motor vehicle transportation on patterns of growth and the development of the city's major commuter thoroughfares. Constructed just after streetcar service on Connecticut Avenue was replaced by bus service, the theater was easily reached by bus or automobile, as well as on foot. With its rear parking lot originally offering free parking, the Uptown extended the trend set by Arthur Heaton's innovative park and shop retail complex of 1930, located nearby on Connecticut Avenue. Quote closed, and all subsequent references to this parking lot and this specific aspect of criterion B, which is the history criterion. Be it resolved that ANC3C objects to the interior of the Uptown being landmarked. Be it further resolved that the ANC authorized the chair and the commissioner for 3C05 to represent the commission on this matter.
Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Paggets. Okay. Commissioners, discussion. Okay, Commissioner Siddiqui, do you feel like going through explaining any of your resolves, or do you think they speak for themselves?
I think we can take, if any of the community members have questions or like that, anything.
All right, everybody in the community, please click the reactions button. Click raise hand if you have a question, or if you're having trouble doing that.
Or if Mr. Burt or Ms. Lepard
Yes.
wanted to add anything, that's also.
Yes, I would like to make a point about the resolution and why I wasn't necessarily a fan of it being considered under consent. First of all, I was here at the Planning and Zoning Committee back on May 2nd, and Mr. Ward mentioned the parking lot. So following the meeting, I shared that information with the authors of the nomination, and they agreed that he raised a good point, that there should be a technical edit, which I have mentioned to Commissioner Siddiqui and Mr. Ward. I've also let the Historic Preservation Office know that when this comes up next week, we will be mentioning that there's going to be a technical edit regarding the parking lot. So I'm fine with that part of the resolves, that first part of the sentence. The part that I don't necessarily agree with is quote, and the linkage of the uptown to the automobile-centered pattern of growth through technical edits, or rather just the part about the automobile-centric development. As the uptown was built in 1936, it was built 6 years after the Park and Shop. Cleveland Park is obviously a streetcar suburb, but it was already being shaped by the commercial thoroughfare of Connecticut Avenue, and people were traveling to Cleveland Park to attend the theater there. So we continue to stand by what the nomination says as far as the overall commercial strip development of the late 1930s, when car culture is starting to become popular going into World War II. But we agree with the parking lot issue, and we are happy to change that. And I also just want to clarify, as I mentioned at the committee meeting, we've never tried to landmark the parking lot behind the uptown. It's not even on the square in the lot that the nomination addresses. And so it's basically, it's somewhat irrelevant because there's no landmarking of a parking lot. And I don't want to take any more time tonight, but I do want to yield the floor to Bonnie Lepard from the Cleveland Park Historical Society. And then I also have John DeFerrari here, who is a volunteer with DC Preservation League, and he was one of the co-authors of the nomination. So I know he would be happy to answer any questions, as he is very knowledgeable about Washington, DC and the uptown. Thank you.
Great. Ms. Lepard?
Thank you. I appreciate that. And thanks, Zach. Just to say that the landmark nomination is very well done and very well researched and excellent. And DCPL does amazing work, and they do this all the time for a living. And so, I mean, not to say for a living, but you know, this is their job, and they have experts and historians that are amazing. So I think to pick it apart I mean, I think the parking issue is irrelevant. I think it's a bit of a red herring. But if we're willing to make a technical minor adjustment to the landmark nomination, that's great, and we'll do that. And you know, I think it's but to take apart the whole history of Cleveland Park in this one nomination would be wrong. So if it's a technical adjustment about the parking lot in the back, fine. That's not what we're trying to landmark. You know, this has been trying to landmark for, you know, year and a half, 2 years. And is, you know, a major part of, as you well know, it's a really important and significant part of the Cleveland Park neighborhood, and a commercial, it's a commercial, important in commercial interest. It brings the neighborhood together. We hope it will be a theater again. And as you know, as I spoke 2 weeks ago at the planning and zoning meeting of the ANC, I've been in many, many talks with the owners, the Pettis family, and they, you know, they really want to bring this back as a theater. But as you know, as Commissioner Siddiqui's nomination, or I mean, pardon me, resolution says, we're not trying to landmark the interior, because it has been altered, you know, several times. But it is the exterior and the signage, but we're not talking about the parking lot. We're not trying to landmark the parking lot. So I'm not really sure why this has been thrown in here. So I appreciate the commissioners tonight. I really appreciate DCPL's expert presentation that the Cleveland Park Historical Society co-sponsored, but they did the yeoman's work on this, and they know what they're doing. So I just think that to talk about the parking is just a little bit strange, but I would really appreciate all the commissioners' support in the landmarking of this very important nomination. And it would be really sad to have you vote against it, especially since Commissioner Siddiqui kind of ran for this as being one of his platforms when he ran for commissioner. So let's get this through. Thank you.
Can I have a friendly amendment, or is it out of order at this point?
You know, it's only friendly if Commissioner Siddiqui accepts it.
Well, I'm sure he will.
He can certainly propose it.
I'm sure he's feeling very friendly tonight. particularly to me. This is going to be easy. This won't be complicated, at least to follow. I would like to suggest that the end of the 6th whereas, the last sentence be deleted, which has to do, no, not be deleted, that be retained. And the earlier part, the statement of significance, section 8, page 9, where it's just talking about motor vehicles and growth and all that. I don't think that's in dispute. What's in dispute is the next sentence with its rear parking lot originally offering free parking, blah, blah, blah. That's the sentence that we want deleted. So I would leave that, delete the earlier part, and then on the second resolve, those sentences are repeated. So again, I would do the same thing there. Ask that the sentence about the rear parking lot be deleted from the landmark if it's approved.
Commissioner McWood, I really thought you were going to propose something very easy, and then I would say yes to right away.
That's easy. That's easy.
It's definitely easy in terms of editing. I will humbly not accept the friendly amendment, and I think this will also answer Ms. Lepard's comment. One, the nomination is in favor of landmarking. There's nothing, like the resolution is in favor of this. Like I am in favor of this. I think this is good. Like you all brought this, and the community wants it, and we were going to pass this unanimously. There was no objection to passing the landmark. I do think, and this is we discussed this at planning and zoning, and I had a conversation with Steve Colcott about this as well. And he said it's very important for the ANC to put in its resolution what the ANC finds needs to be edited. And I agree, the parking lot is the technical edit for the parking lot. You all also agree that one, can go in. And nowhere in the resolution does it say that you all were proposing to landmark the parking lot. But you all also agreed that the parking lot technical edit can go. I would also like to make a case that the automobile centric aspect of the uptown, that has no evidence either. Even within the nomination, it says that it was developed as a neighborhood theater and then became a destination later. And now it's a destination, but there's no evidence provided that it was part of an automobile centric development. I think that's important because, one of the things, like I said this at planning and zoning as well, one, it doesn't really matter, but two, like who are the nerds who are going to go read this and look at the citation and look at accurate? I think it's very important if we do this to record the correct history, that we accurately record it. And if it doesn't matter, this is not going to impact the nomination at all. This is actually really good. Like it'll put the nomination forward, but I would like to delete that as well, because I think there's no scientific evidence or any type of evidence from old newspaper or anything else that it was developed as an automobile centric theater. But sorry, Commissioner McWood.
Well, maybe one of the sponsors of the application can twist your arm.
I would like to defer to Mr. DeFerrari, who co-authored.
Could you hold on a second, Mr. Burt?
Oh, yeah.
Commissioner Paggett?
Thank you. Yeah, no, everything Commissioner D said, our issue with the parking lot is with precedent, actually, because Sam's Parking Shop does have a parking lot that's seemingly historically preserved, and it's a bit of a contributing reason that the metro station floods. It should also be noted that I live in a building that was built before this theater, around the theater, that was before cars, and me and my neighbors before me all walked to this theater. And it was not something that we needed a parking structure or parking lot for. And the other thing that I've started to notice in some of these applications is I'm worried that folks are starting to include surface parking lots in them, thinking that they'll not be noticed, because I just saw this in the Chevy Chase branch bank application too, where it seemingly is preserving surface parking. We can't be doing this anymore. And our worry, our concern, and the reason that we want this noted and technically removed is that this parking can be used for something else. So that's our concern. It's not like, yes, we love the theater, we want that preserved, but we can't have this, that, and the other thing. That's all. Sorry.
Okay, Mr. Ferrari, I think you were about to say something. Sorry, Mr. D. Ferrari, I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm a trustee of the Preservation League, and I was one of the co-authors of the nomination. And I just wanted to reiterate that at first, the nomination does not include the parking lot at all. All nominations have a map at the back. It's on page 39 if you want to look, and it marks exactly the territory, the lot that is being nominated, and it does not include the parking lot at all. So there was never any intention to include the parking lot. There is, however, very much a matter of historical fact that the theater was chosen at that location because of that location on that artery that was a major transportation artery, still is a major transportation artery. There's no question about that. And it's a large theater. It's not a small neighborhood theater. It's not like the Newton, for example, in Brookland, or the Sheridan, or some of those other little neighborhood theaters. It was designed, intended by Warner Brothers to be a major theater on a major artery, and it grew to that role over the years and became clearly an asset to the whole city that all of us know and love and appreciate, and that's the reason why DCPL decided to step up and nominate this individually. The theater, of course, is already protected historically as an element of the Cleveland Park Historic District. So the importance here is a citywide importance, because this is an asset to the whole city that people come from all over the city, and they come there in part because it's so centrally located on this artery. So we spent a certain amount of effort explaining that history of the development of the commercial artery on Connecticut, and a lot has to do with the automobile. That's just a matter of what happened. This was one of the very first major streetcar routes to eliminate streetcars and replace them with buses. And that was at the urging of the local citizens. They preferred the buses. They didn't want the old-fashioned streetcars. They preferred modern transportation. So now we assumed the parking lot was connected, and that was an error. So that's why we're perfectly willing to take that, but to take out anything that specifically suggests that the parking lot was connected. That we agree with that. But we don't agree with the idea that the whole automobile-centric Connecticut Avenue corridor, there were gas stations right and left all along that stretch in the old days. So that is an element of the history that we saw in researching the theater, and we believe is important to maintain. And so we intend to include that. We don't intend to take that out, is what I'm saying. Thank you.
Commissioner Baggett?
Yeah, the whole neighborhood was built off the streetcar. Like that was it before automobiles. And I mean, I really enjoyed actually reading the nomination for the Chevy Chase Savings Bank that really dove into the racist history of the Chevy Chase Land Trust and that savings bank and the streetcar and all of the things that went into that past, which has a lot to do with what predated the streetcar and the reason, these neighborhoods exist up in Upper Northwest. So I object to taking anything out about, what we want to do with this technical deletion of the parking lot, because I don't think this was an automobile centric. I think it became that. I don't think it was ever meant to be that in its original history.
Well, if I may just point out, the theater was not built until 1936. There were no streetcars on Connecticut Avenue in 1936 when construction began on the theater. So it was not, you're absolutely correct that Cleveland Park began as a streetcar suburb way back in the 1890s. But that's not this theater didn't come from the 1890s. It came in 1936.
So doesn't the application say that it's a neighborhood theater? The nomination, doesn't it refer to the Uptown as a neighborhood theater?
Yes, yeah, it definitely started that way. I believe, I think we've explained that it started as a neighborhood theater and really developed, particularly after Warner Brothers eliminated their tiered system of premieres. They originally had all the movie premieres were downtown. That was something that began in the 1920s. And then second run, there were several tiers, and the Uptown was originally in the second tier. And then they eliminated that after World War II, and the Uptown became first tier, and they enhanced the theater, and it became what we all know. So there was definitely an evolution from neighborhood theater in 1936, pretty rapid evolution to being a sort of a citywide resource.
Yeah, I imagine it was a pretty good place to build a movie theater, given that you had the Broadmoor, Commissioner Paggett's building, and the two buildings that used to be part of the same development, the Kennedy Warren. It's a lot of
Kennedy Warren.
A lot of housing in one spot. Okay, so is there Commissioner Paggett, your hand is still raised? Did you have something more to contribute?
That's a legacy hand. I apologize. It's historic.
Well, thank you. Commissioner Siddiqui.
Yeah, I just want to quickly say, Mr. DeFerrari, thank you for that history. And I totally agree with you. I think in development around the artery is definitely true, and development on a commercial artery and artery that gets into the city. I just don't think, despite the streetcar not being there, like you mentioned, I just don't think artery just means cars. I think artery it means buses, it means commercial district, it means so many other things. So that's for the only reason why I'm not saying that what you're saying is incorrect. I'm just saying that I think the automobile centric part of it is the part that I don't think I can, I haven't seen evidence of that.
Thank you, Commissioner Siddiqui. Okay, commissioners, is there any further discussion? Members of the public, anything to contribute? Applicants? Okay. Everybody okay? Moving to a vote then. All right.
Chair Finley, could we do a roll call vote?
Yes, Commissioner Siddiqui, we can. Thank you. All right, Rachel, would you do the honors of conducting a roll call vote?
This is on as original.
Yes.
Thank you.
There was no proposed amendment that was seconded.
Okay, thank you.
Are you ready for me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let's see. Commissioner Paggett.
Yes.
Commissioner Finley.
Yes.
Commissioner Siddiqui.
Yes.
Commissioner Dyer. Abstaining. Commissioner McWood.
Aye.
And the motion passes.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bird.
DeFerrari and Ms. Lepard.
Thank you.
Let's see, next up on our agenda, we have the secretary's report. We are done with commission business, just double checking, commissioners, that's correct, given the consent calendar amendments. Okay, I'll take that as yes. Okay, so we have the secretary's report. Commissioner Reba could not, or Secretary Reba could not be here this evening. I move that we do it next month unless there are objections.
I'll second your movement.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, all those in favor of postponing the secretary's report till next month when Secretary Reba can hopefully join us?
Does this mean we're also postponing the minutes?
It would be, yes. We probably should adopt the minutes. That's correct.
Because we approved
Yes,
our quarterly financial report last time, and
yes, you are correct. Yes. Okay.
Oh.
Thank you. Good call. Okay. So, commissioners, you've seen the minutes as sent around by Secretary Reba.
Yeah.
And are there any edits to those minutes? Okay, hearing none. I'm going to move Secretary Reba's minutes forward. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner McWood. And then all those in favor of Commissioner Reba's minutes, or Secretary Reba's minutes, please raise your hand. And Commissioner Dyer, no pressure because you were not here last month. So
This is why I should probably abstain from everything right now. So
no, not everything. This one in particular. But okay, all those opposed, all those abstaining, all those abstaining from abstaining. Commissioner Paggett, which way were you voting?
I mean, okay, I'll vote for it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the minutes pass. Thank you. And now we move on to the treasurer's report. Treasurer Siddiqui.
Yes, I'm unmuted. Just grabbing my spreadsheet. So there was one expense that we will be writing a check for. It is for our administrator, Rachel Worsham, and the check will be written for a net pay of $565.99 or 22.5 hours of work.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Siddiqui. Is there a second for this?
I don't think we need a second. I think it's just a report.
We don't need.
It's just a report. We're not adopting minutes. So
No.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Good point. Okay, we'll move to single member district reports. Commissioner McWood, I did see Commissioner Reba's email to you, or to all of us, including you. Are you going to read his?
I am indeed.
At
I
this
am
late hour?
indeed. But I'll tell you what, I won't have one. So I will try to get through this as quickly as I can for Commissioner Reba, who couldn't be here tonight, but had some important messages he wanted to convey. One, as reported in April, the Christmas trees that were left to die on the road along Cathedral Avenue have been picked up and finally removed. Two, Nando's Peri Peri of Woodley Park, located 2631 Connecticut Avenue, is renewing their Class C restaurant license. Petitions or letters of opposition or support must be filed on or before Monday, June 27th. A hearing will be held on Monday, July 18th, 2022. Any issues or concerns that anyone has with this establishment should contact Commissioner Reba. 3, Director Lott, Councilmember Che, and Commissioner Reba received an email regarding a dangerous design flaw at an alley exit entrance in the 2600 block of Woodley Road. On Thursday, May 12th at approximately 8:30 a.m. A DDOT employee was exiting the alley, and as she pulled out, her car collided with a 13-year-old boy who was riding to school down Woodley Place on his bike. The youngster was shaken up, but apart from a scraped knee, a bent bicycle, and a dented car, there was no other damage. Commissioner Reba will be speaking to Director Lott and Councilmember Che about appropriate signage at the alley entrance to avoid this sort of incident from ever occurring again. Number 4, Commissioner Reba received a complaint from a constituent regarding a male panhandler urinating along the commercial district east of Connecticut Avenue in Cleveland Park. First time, the gentleman was sitting in front of the Cleveland Park CVS. He walked across the service lane and urinated by the traffic control box on Connecticut Avenue. On the second occasion, the gentleman exposed his private parts. Commissioner Reba will be reaching out to the Mental Health Emergency Dispatch Program that deploys mental health and social workers rapid response teams. This program was implemented to address emergency calls when the police are not needed. And I believe there is one more.
Seems a little late to call a rapid response team, but
Yeah, it would have to be immediate as opposed to. 5, as many have heard, the Smithsonian National Zoo and Conservation Biology Institute are mourning the loss of 25 American flamingos and 1 northern pintail duck killed by a wild fox in the zoo's outdoor flamingo habitat. As part of regular facility safety procedures, exhibit integrity inspections are conducted multiple times a day by staff. The last inspection of the outdoor yard surrounding the birdhouse was conducted May 1. Sadly, no areas of concern were observed at that time for the flamingo habitat. An inspection conducted on the morning of the incident revealed the following: a new softball-sized hole in the heavy-duty metal mesh that surrounds the outdoor yard. 2, there was no breach of the dig area in the outdoor exhibit. 3, the zoo is actively investigating the incident and has taken the following immediate actions. The metal mesh surrounding the flamingo yard has been reinforced. The live traps have been set around the outdoor yard to catch any predators. And digital camera traps with an infrared sensor triggered by movement have been set up to photograph overnight activity. And that concludes Commissioner Reba's SMD report.
thank you, Commissioner McWood.
And if anyone has any questions, please contact Commissioner Reba directly.
Okay, well, I don't think we could possibly have any questions after that exhaustive report. Thank you. Commissioner Paggets?
Yeah, thanks. I don't know if I see Robert from Woodley Park Main Streets has been hanging on here. So if he wants to say hi, he can, but if not, totally next meeting. But I do not want to prolong this, but Robert, if you want to say hi, pop in. If not, do you? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'm Commissioner for 3C04, and my update is 2 parts. 1, the illegal parking on the sidewalk by St. Arnold's and 7-Eleven seems to be due to people working inside St. Arnold's. Oh, thank you, Commissioner Paggets. Robert, did you want to say something really quick?
Sure, I'm happy to introduce myself if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, this is Robert Mines. I'm the new executive director of Woodley Park Main Streets. I've reached out to a number of you to start saying hello and to see how we can collaborate more closely with the ANC. I'm in Richmond at the moment for the National Main Streets Conference, which is a wonderful opportunity to meet with other directors and to bring back some ideas for Woodley Park. But yeah, this is a nice opportunity to say hi. I'm not going to turn on the camera because I'm about to head to bed. But I've been listening, and yeah, it's a great way for me to start learning a little bit more about what the ANC does.
Well, we're all really jealous that you're heading to bed. Thank you.
Right, so the parking issue is due to work within St. Arnold's, and the DPW has been on the scene ticketing folks there. There is metered parking that the workers can use, and hopefully they'll avail themselves of that, as it's much cheaper than tickets. And in sad news, there was a stabbing at the Rodman, which is at 3002 Rodman Street. A friend of mine was murdered in the building there. Many of you might recognize him. His name was Daniel McKinney. You'd see him often on the service lane wearing a hat and hawking newspapers. Often free newspapers that he was selling for spending money. But he unfortunately was murdered. His funeral will be this Friday. Please contact me if you'd like to attend. And the homicide branch of MPD is aware of leads and is investigating his death. So yeah, that's it for mine. And Commissioner Siddiqui.
Thank you, Commissioner Finley. From 3C05, Hearst Park and Pool construction is having its normal trouble. So I already mentioned this earlier in the meeting. Just want to put it on the record here. There are severe drainage issues and water standing up on the soccer field, as well as water drainage issues around the tennis court. There's also issues of plants around the field that have been removed. So I'm in communications with DPR and DGS and DPR and DPW about like what are we doing with those things, and so please keep sending them in. Supposedly it's supposed to open Memorial Day, but given this project, who knows when that'll happen. I also have there's construction because of streetscape construction. We had some trouble on Ordway Street that was resolved thanks to Councilmember Che and Director Lott stepping in and sort of fixing traffic. Traffic was getting diverted onto Ordway, and now it's not being anymore. They reopened part of Porter, so that's not an issue. But if there's any issue with streetscape, construction will continue on Ordway, so it will keep impacting on this side of the neighborhood as well. So please let me know. And then finally, our Main Street organizer just wanted to say that they're looking for volunteers for the Uptown Shuffle on Sunday, June 5th. So this is, we've all been stuck in COVID. So this is one chance for all of us as a community to come together. So if anyone would like to volunteer, please reach out to Cassandra Harrington. If you need help with that, please just reach out to me and I will connect you with Cassandra. That's it for me.
Thank you, Commissioner Siddiqui. Commissioner Dyer?
Sorry, let me put my, I don't really have a report since I was just sworn in about 5 days ago. So.
Well, I do want to take this moment, and I think I said this earlier in the meeting, but thank you and congratulations, and we're very glad to have you on the commission with us.
Well, thank you. I'm hoping that all the meetings are not this long.
A little longer.
If we use the consent calendar.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, wow. Okay. This was a much larger commitment than anybody ever suggested.
That's how we get you.
Should have called one of us.
All right, and Commissioner.
And
McWood,
congratulations, by the way, and thank you.
I know Commissioner McWood, you had said.
I changed my mind. I have one thing. I just have one quick thing. I just want to let everyone know that the interim principal at John Eaton School is retiring, and the process to select her replacement has begun. 3 candidates, prospective candidates, were interviewed by a school panel, and recommendations were made to the chancellor. And the new principals should be announced by the end of June. That's it.
Great, thank you, Commissioner McWood. It's that time, folks. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I would like to motion to adjourn.
That sounds like it was okay. Okay. Any opposition to this motion to adjourn? All right, everybody. Have a great night and see you next month.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.